Welcome to the Roy Matlock Jr. Money and Business Hours, where he'll help you fix your finances once and for all. To reach Roy, call 615-843-2999. That is 615-843-2999, or visit RoyMatlockJr.com. Now, here's your host, Roy.
All right, Roy Matlock Jr. here, and we are once again talking money and how to accumulate it and keep it and avoid the mistakes. If you tuned in last week, I did the show on the defense, and the defense is, preparing yourself, avoiding mistakes, preparing yourself to not lose, protecting your income, your assets, things like that. And then today, what I'm going to do is we're going to go on the offense, which is wealth accumulation. And so, last week was everything from the budget to emergency funds to, avoiding bad debt, getting the right insurance to protect your income, your assets, things like that, defensive positions. And I believe the defense is, a big part of it. We want to not dig ourselves in a hole to start, our life or at any time, because you don't want to spend make a few mistakes and then have to dig out of it for a long period of time. And so what we're doing today is we're going to make the assumption that you've got your defense in place, and now we're going to go on the offense. And the offense is going to be asset allocation and investment advice and things like that, tax advice. And so if you would like to do a phone call with one of our advisors, you can call 615-843-2999. It starts with a quick 15 to 20 minute intro call to see if we're a fix or a fit for you, and then, or you can visit RoyMatlockJr.com. So let's get started. I'm going to start with the debt side. And, one of the things that you can do when it comes to using debt and credit, you can do that in a positive way. And if you do it in a positive way, it allows you to grow. And so what is the difference in bad debt and good debt? Simple bad debt is you can't afford it. You've stretched yourself. Number two, it's tied to something that goes down in value. All right. So cars, credit cards, things like that. So we're going to make the assumption now that you've got your credit in place, and you are doing something that, long-term, I always look at, can I easily take on the obligation, and is it going to leverage me to a better position? So good debt is considered an investment in your future, helping you increase your wealth, improve your quality of life, gain assets that appreciate over time. So let's think about this. A mortgage, for the most part, if you borrow correctly and you have a mortgage that you can afford over a period of time, what's going to happen is you're going to have a house that appreciates, and it's a place to live. And as a result of that, you at some point in time will accumulate equity, either through appreciation or paying it down, and it's easily affordable. So that's an example of good debt. All right. Now, what would be a mortgage that is bad debt? Well, number one, you stretch yourself to where, you're living on boxes, and cardboard boxes are your furniture, and you are stretched. And if anything ever happened to your current income because you didn't have an emergency fund or anything like that, you get foreclosed. That's bad debt. All right. So we want to always look at it that way. Student loans. If you can go to a college or a trade school, whatever it may be, and you borrow money in order to get an additional degree that will allow you to get a return on investment. My daughter went and, I paid for her college. She went and got her master's degree, and the rates were so low, it was better to borrow the money to get her master's, and it ends up becoming a good investment. If you can go spend a few $100s a month on a student loan, and it leads to you making an extra $15,000 or $20,000 a year because you have a master's degree, that's good debt. Business loans fall into the good debt. Again, you got to be able to easily pay for it. But if you can buy a piece of equipment and it ends up, making you money, that could be an example, allow you to grow your business, expand your business, do things like that. Things of that nature. Home equity lines of credit, are opportunity money. If you've bought houses in the last 10 years, especially in this area, chances are you've got some equity. It's low interest finance to own your house. Maybe you've got a 3% loan that you don't want to pay off. I would never do that. And so you want to maintain that just paying your payment. But then you say, wow, I've got all this equity tied up. Why wouldn't you get an equity line of credit? I tell people to do that for two reasons. One is to do it as a big emergency fund. So that means if you had something and, the banks will loan you money when you don't need it. When you need it, they don't loan you money. And so you go get you an equity line of credit and you don't use it. So let's say you've got a house that's worth $600 and you owe $200 on it. They'll generally, if your income will support it, they'll probably loan you up to 75-80% of your value. So if you owe $200 and your house is worth $600, you've probably got close to $300,000 in available credit. Set it up, and then that way, if an opportunity comes along, you can do something. I mean, if I came to you right now and I said, hey, I got something, you give me $50,000, I'll turn around and give you $100 back, and you don't have the $50,000, then that's called an opportunity cost. You didn't have the money. So if you had an equity line of credit. So that's good debt examples. I wanted to start it with that because, we came off of last week, the defense. What I would look at is if you want to really start from A to Z on the plan, go to roymatlockjr.com and take a look at last week's podcast. Everything is there, or you can find it on any of your podcast, Spotify, all that stuff. It's under the Roy Matlock Jr. Money and Business Hour. So now what we've done is we've put together a plan to get started. And when I look with people, when I meet with people, my goal is to get people educated, give them good advice. We then create a defense to keep them from losing, protect income and assets. Then we go on an offense, and the offense is to grow wealth and things like that. Then what we would then do is go into the product marketplace. And in the case with me, I'm a fiduciary, and so I have access to every investment product, and pretty much the same holds true when it comes to insurance and things like that. And then we would go out and we would match up, the products to your, stage in life. If you're younger, you'll probably be more aggressive. If you're older, you'll probably be less aggressive, and so on. And then we start looking at ways to free up money to save to where we can go out and start, automating our investment plan and our financial independence. Our financial independence number, it's easy. We come up with our number, and I can show you that. And then once we do that, we go and put together an automated plan to do it. Visit roymatlockjr.com if you'd like to schedule a free review. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Roy Matlock Jr. Money and Business Hours, where he'll help you fix your finances once and for all. To reach Roy, call 615-843-2999. That is 615-843-2999, or visit roymatlockjr.com. Now, here's your host, Roy.
All right, we're back. Segment 2, Roy Matlock Jr. here, and we are going through the offense, which is growing wealth, and we're going to get into a lot of stuff as it relates to advice, as it relates to your investments and tax savings and things like that. But I wanted to bring this up. If you've ever thought, if you're listening to the show and you're a connected person, and you might be thinking about money more than the average person, would you ever consider becoming a financial advisor? Because we train people to do that. And at RMJ Advisory, we're building the next generation of financial professionals, and we provide full training, licensing support, mentorship, all of it you can do straight from home. So if you're driven, maybe you're a business owner, or you're a real estate agent or mortgage person, or you're just in sales, or you just are great with people, you should go to Roy Matlock Jr. and click the button, Become an Advisor. We have a short video that will outline a little bit about what we do. So think about that, or you can call 615-843-2999 to find out more details on that. So what we're doing right now is we're going through the offense. We just finished up in the previous segment how you use debt to benefit yourself. All debt is not bad. Borrowing money to make money, as long as you can afford it, is good. So we talked about that. Now I'm going to get into some typical investment advice that I kind of build my whole practice around. The first one is we determine risk tolerance. Now, determining risk tolerance is when I meet with someone or any of my advisors do, we'll evaluate your comfort, all right, based on your financial goals, your time horizon. If you're young with decades before you retire, you probably can afford more risk, whereas if you're nearing retirement, you may be more conservative in the investments. We also look at what are you currently doing? So if I meet somebody and, they're like me, I've never had a job, I've always owned a business. So pretty well you can assume I'm a bigger risk taker than the average person. Then I'm probably going to be talking with someone and say, hey, you've been, previously you've taken on more risk and things like that. Is this something that you want to continue on your investment side, or is it something you want to have a separate, more conservative outlook on your investments versus what you're doing for your living or your business or something like that? And so we talk about those kind of things. I also have asked people, if the market were to take a 20% dip right now, how would you feel about that? And it's funny when I ask people that, one of them will say, that's great, man. I'll be buying in. That'll be a great opportunity. And then other people, you can just see them kind of sigh that they wouldn't be that happy about that. They don't look at it as an opportunity. And so we start talking to people, get to know people, and the best return on your money is the most amount of risk that doesn't cause you to panic and, call and say, hey, we got to get out of this or whatever it may be. And so we kind of do that. Then what we do is we diversify. So we start with risk tolerance, then we look at diversifying, and that allows us to have different types of investments. So when one goes down, the other one is steady, that kind of thing. That's stocks, bonds, insurance, even if you had real estate, if you are thinking about that, that would be another avenue that you start diversifying. So we diversify. We look at low-cost options to do this. If you may be in a managed account like a mutual fund, professional money management, or we may do ETFs, which have a little bit better tax, opportunity if you're in something that's not qualified, meaning retirement plans. We then rebalance the portfolio periodically. If we have big moves in the market, we may rebalance, or typically if we are trying to keep a 60-40 portfolio stock bond, then we're going to, when we do annual reviews, we'll take a look at that and decide if we are pulling money. I tend to, when we have big up markets like right now, I'm probably going to pull from the up markets. I'm going to sell at the top with the idea of providing income, say for this coming year. If we have a down market, we would probably look at the bond portion, which would be more conservative, and use that to provide the income or even some cash, whatever it may be. So now what we're doing is we determine the risk tolerance, we diversify the portfolio, we look at low-cost alternatives, to where you get, you're not paying a big management fee to an investment firm that might not even outperform the market. We rebalance, so now we're moving along. We're going to focus on high-growth investments early when building wealth, focus on investments with high-growth potential, stocks. You may be 100% in the market, and the idea behind that when you're young is that every time the market goes down, you're buying. We believe in dollar cost averaging, which allows us to be consistently buying more shares when it's discounted. So we buy more discounted shares and less higher price shares, with the idea that you get a lower cost over time. So what I believe is this: when we first get started, we look at a goal, and if the goal is to accumulate X, then what we do then is we put that number, we put time horizon, that's the goal, and then we look at when we want to get there, what's realistic, 20 years from now, 30 years, whatever it may be, and then we come up with some assumed interest rates. We think we can get this or this or this, and then from there, we have a financial independence number. If you go to roymountlockjr.com, we have put together your FIN number, and if you go in there under the resources, we have put together a cool deal that you can actually go to the website and And if you go up to the resources page at the top under financial planning, and you go and you'll find financial calculators, and it's the retirement plan or retirement savings goal calculator. And when you click on that, you'll be able to go in there. It says, how much do you have now? How much do you think you'll need after taxes? Okay, when you retire, what is the annual income you expect to receive from other sources like Social Security, whatever it may be, pension? We put your age, we put your goal. It calculates all this. We're going to retire, at what age? And we're going to estimate a tax rate, and it's going to say, okay, here is your financial independence number, 30 years, $682 a month. If you get 10% on your money or 9% on your money, you will be where you want to be. And we inflate it. We do all that kind of stuff, every bit of it. But you can go to the retirement calculator, and it's sitting on roymatlockjr.com in the resources. All right. So now what we're doing is we are setting up, the risk tolerance. We got the time horizon. We're rebalancing. We're doing all these kind of things. We adjust accordingly as our life changes. We become different. One of the things that I do on the advice side is I look at what you have saved now. Let's say you're in your mid-50s, late 50s, and you've got $1 million in your retirement account, and you're putting $20,000 a year in. You expect to work another 5 years. So you're going to put in $100,000, but you already got $1 million. So we're going to do two things. We're going to make the big amount, the $1 million, we're going to probably be more conservative with that because that's the most important thing you have. But on the investments that you're putting in monthly, we may be doing, growth investments to take advantage of dollar cost averaging and so on. So we're going to adjust that accordingly. We've got our goal, factoring in desired lifestyle, inflation, life expectancy. We use the online calculator. You can do that at roymatlockjr.com. Then we're going to decide which tax advantage accounts that we're going to put our money in. Are we going to put it into pre-tax or after-tax? You've got matching funds through your job potentially, 401k, 403b, et cetera, 457. We have Roth IRAs that we can do stuff with. And so we're starting to put together this plan. And it's just kind of here we go. This is where it is. Step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. We're going to check the boxes off and put yourself in a good position. My name is Roy Matlock Jr. If you would like to speak with one of our advisors, a phone call is free, 615-843-2999. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Roy Matlock Jr. Money and Business Hours, where he'll help you fix your finances once and for all. To reach Roy, call 615-843-2999. That is 615-843-2999, or visit roymatlockjr.com. Now, here's your host, Roy.
All right, Roy Matlock Jr. here, and we're going to segment 3, and we're talking about retirement planning. And we're going to get into some of the other stuff, college plannings, different things like that. But so now we're setting our retirement goals. And if you just tuned in, you can go to roymatlockjr.com and find out exactly what your VIN number is, financial independence number, in our resource tab. You can calculate where you're at now, what you've saved, put in the interest rate, stuff like that. It's just a tool to help you plan. Everything you do, if you put it on paper, it gets better. If you look at it every day, it gets better. It's just called managing. Anything you manage, I think, improves about 20%. And so some things like your financial plan, if you've got a plan, I'm one of these guys that I get up in the morning, I look at my stuff every day. That's what I do. And a lot of people, I tell them, if it bothers you, then don't do that. But for me, I like to see, I look at where I'm at. I've been doing that for years. My bank balances, I get a text every morning. That's just the way I operate. But because of that, I manage it, and I look at stuff and I catch stuff, and that's the way you do it. But anyway, so now what we're doing, we got retirement goals. We're going to choose the right account. You've got after-tax money that grows tax-free. That's a Roth or a Roth 401k, 403b, whatever it may be. And then you've got pre-tax. where you can take a deduction now, but you pay taxes later. And if you do a pre-tax account, you're going to have to start paying drawing on it at age 73. Pretty much all of your retirement accounts, anything you get tax deferral on, you're going to need to leave it to 59 and a half, or you're going to get penalized if you pull it out. Roths do have some little, where you leave it in 5 years, you can pull your principal out. But the point being is that all of the things that you get deductions and deferral on have got some rules to it. Roths, you pay the taxes now and you don't pay it later. You got 59 and a half. If you do pre-tax, traditional, whatever it may be, you can get a deduction now, and then but you can pay taxes later. A lot of times I'll tell people, how do you determine should you do a Roth or should you do a pre-tax? A lot of it has to do with when you get started. If you're young and you're starting out saving money, you're going to have a big account later. A Roth may make more sense because it's potentially possible that if you retire, you're going to have your income go up. All right, if you had a traditional IRA. But the other side is that, if you're waiting, you were behind maybe and you have a good income, it's possible that your tax deduction today will be more valuable than waiting. So why not deduct it now? I tell people in many cases you can buy one, get one free. So you can go throw in, let's say you're in your 50s and you put in the maximum, which is including your catch-up, which is 24.5 is your below 50, and then you get an $8,000 catch-up. So you're at $32,500 you can put in. Well, if you're a high-income earner, here's what you would do. You would put in $32,500 and deduct it. That'll save you about $10,000. That $10,000, you can throw it into a backdoor Roth IRA and put $8,600 in. And now what you did is you bought one and got one free. Now what you did is you've got your deductible retirement account, you got your matching funds, all the kind of stuff that goes on like that. But then the tax savings alone ended up funding a tax-free Roth IRA. So we do things like that, and the way we determine that is we project your income when you retire versus your income now. And I see it many times where people waited, but then their income is really up now, so they're getting a bigger tax deduction. So it may make more sense that way. We also look at it when you retire. What's Social Security going to mean to you? If you have a lot of money, Roth's getting some conversions. It's possible you don't pay any taxes on your Social Security. So there's all these different things that we do. There's other options like health savings accounts. In many cases, if you have high deductible plans, you can put up to married over $8,000 a year into that $4,000, a little over $4,000 if you are single. And then what we do, we want to maximize our contributions if at all possible. At very minimum, we want to make sure that we're getting our matching funds. That's free money. If the company tells me they're giving me 3% match, well, that's free money. I put in 3 and I get 3. That's 100% return right off the bat. And so I want to do that. Then as I'm moving closer to retirement, I'm going to decide when to take Social Security. Generally speaking, the sooner you take it, the better if you're not working. If you are working, I generally will tell people to wait until they're full Social Security age at 67, even if they're continuing to work. And then what we do is we just draft the Social Security payment into an investment. Rule of thumb, if you wait from 66 and a half, whatever, to 70, typically the increase you'll get at 70 is about 10 years of income before you'll be able to catch up. And who knows? I mean, that doesn't include investments. And so I tend to tell people, take it and let's take the Social Security and save it. Many cases, if you take the Social Security, it allows you to put it into a deductible account. And now what did you get? You got Social Security, you deduct it. I mean, there's just a lot of ways to do stuff like that. When we retire, we start looking at different places we're going to get our income from. Some of you have pensions. I met with a police officer just this week, been a client of mine for a long time. He's got a pension, and he's got, going to have Social Security. He's going to have investment income. We may throw some annuities in there, but the long and short of it is that we've got 3 or 4 different income streams. Maybe you have a business you're going to sell, or maybe you have a business that you're going to keep, and it's going to provide you that. Then we look at how much can we withdraw in order to be safe. What is a safe withdrawal amount? That's when we bring annuities in to the mix. And, here's what an annuity does. An annuity gives you a lifetime income. Could be a joint life income. If you're married, you could buy it to do that. And that means it'll pay for as long as either one of you live. When you buy an annuity, the mindset is that we're going to take this money and we're going to turn it over to an insurance company, and they are going to give us a lifetime income. But the idea behind it is we hope there's no money left in that. And the reason we hope that is that we outlived our money. We got into the insurance company's pocket. The benefit of an annuity is it allows you to pull more money without the fear of bad markets. And then what happens? Your money goes away and your income stops. So the primary reason, if you're at retirement, you buy an annuity is to offset the risk of living too long. And that is what an annuity is for. Now, are we going to put all of your money in an annuity? Absolutely not. It might be a third of your money, whatever it may be, depending on where you're at. Then the rest of it is your inheritance and your inflation guard. So if we have money that we know we have Social Security and we have a guarantee already set up in the annuity, then at that point, we're in a good position. I had a couple just recently, they have $4,400 a month in an annuity in Social Security coming in. We put $200,000 into an annuity that got them $1,600 a month. Now they have $6,000 a month and their house is paid for. The rest of the money, we stuck it into a 75-25 stock bond portfolio, which allows us to add income later when inflation kicks in. And if we have 75%, that's a good growth model. 25% is in a bond. So if we have a down market and they needed more money, we'd pull the bond. But the idea is that's going to be the inheritance, and we got a guaranteed income coming in. So now this is kind of the way planning works when you get into your retirement. We look at, okay, what is the best way to deal with our taxes when we retire? Should we convert some of our retirement plans to Roth IRAs now that our income's down? And so a lot of times that's what we'll do there. All these different things go into putting the plan together with the idea that one day, you're going to retire and you want to be able to have a secure and comfortable retirement. You want to be able to not worry about whether or not you're going to be okay. I mean, that's what it's all about. And that's why we work and we save and we put aside our money with one day we are comfortable. So my name is Roy Matlock Jr. If you would like a review, call 615-843-2999. Last segment coming up.
Welcome to the Roy Matlock Jr. Money and Business Hours, where he'll help you fix your finances once and for all. To reach Roy, call 615-843-2999. That is 615-843-2999, or visit RoyMatlockJr.com. Now, here's your host, Roy.
All right, Roy Matlock Jr. here. Last segment, and we've been talking about the offense, and really, it's going to go into two different shows. If you want to go to RoyMatlockJr.com or the Roy Matlock Jr. Money Business Hour, you can get the podcast. And last week we did the defense. Today's the offense. And I've been really, took an hour on the defense, and I think I'm going to end up taking, 2 hours almost on the offense. So very detailed on putting together a financial plan. And so if you would like help actually implementing what we teach, just reach out to RoyMatlockJr.com and schedule a review or do any of the downloads, or you can call 615-843-2999. We'll get you straightened out and ready to go and automated. So now we've talked about different retirement plans. What should you do? How do you follow a safe retirement route? I talked about annuities. I've talked about 401ks, when to draw Social Security. A couple other things that I want to hit that are important. And that's college educational savings accounts. So one of the things that you can do is utilize 529 or what's called an ESA. You also have something called a UTMA or UGMA, depending on the state, uniform gift or uniform transfer. to minors. Some you can, but basically what it is if you put it into 529, it's used for college. It grows tax free. It eventually can turn into almost like a Roth IRA but use it for qualified educational expenses. So if you start young, you put that in and you let it grow tax free. It's used for college, though. You can also move it from one beneficiary to the next. So let's say one of them, your kids get a scholarship and the other doesn't. You can move it. And so it's really kind of very flexible that way. You can also do custodial accounts. It's where you put money aside. It gets favorable tax treatment, but you are the custodian. And depending on the state, they get access to it between 18 and 25 years old, depending on which state you're in. And so, for instance, that money could be set aside into a fund, and your mindset is, well, I'm going to give them that money with the intention that, when they get out on their own, they can buy a house. I had one of my clients years ago. It was a combination of a custodial plan, and then on top of that, he worked at Wendy's. And he put aside money as a 16-year-old, actually before 16. He was one of those guys that was all into it, saving his money, and put it in there. And I did probably 15 years later, I had a big investment seminar, and he stood up and he told me, I recognized who he was, and he said, "Hey, I just want you to know that money I accumulated while I was a kid, I just put a down payment on a house, and I've got $29,000 left over." And he was in his late 20s at the time. And I'm like, hey, you go and teach your kids young what to do. One of the things that I've always recommended is, I did this with my kids, is I pulled a mutual fund company up, and I told them, I said, I want you to look at these different choices, and I want you to click on it, and I want you to look at the companies that they own. And then once you do that, I want you to tell me which one you want to go into. So I showed him all these growth funds and stuff like that. And one of them, he looked at it, and he said, "Oh, there's GameStop. They have a GameStop, And so anyway, he went through that. He went through some other ones, and we bought that fund. And that was one of the funds that we set up. You put $250 in it, and you can add to it any time. Normally you've been, when you're a kid, it's like they take you to the bank, and it's a big deal. You get your bank account. And so in this case, rather than take them to the bank, get all your kids and grandkids investing, show them how it works. And we do those accounts for $250. And then if you have a checking account added to it, you can add any amount of money to it anytime. And you can look at it and teach and learn investments, that kind of stuff. So those are things that, I've always done. I did a family financial workshop. It came one day as a result of, I had one of my nieces. My mother just passed away at 102. And, we had 5 generations. She was born in 1923. And we had one of the babies was born in 2023. And, there's kids running around everywhere. I got 3 sisters and a brother. And so anyway, I thought, man, all these little kids, they need to have an account. And so I did a family financial workshop, and I gifted to every one of the kids, I think there's 27 of them, a $250 account. And from there, I thought, man, everybody should know that. But they had to show up if they were teenagers. And I, showed them how it worked and stuff like that. And so we did a bunch of those. Well, what ended up happening was it evolved into doing family financial workshops. And we did a big one online. We had about 4,000 people attend one of our webinars where we encourage teenagers and so to jump in with their parents. And now for our clients and for any of you that have a big family, we would do something like that for you, a family financial workshop. If they're 10, 11, 12 years old, they can learn, how one of these things works, and you get everything set up, and you can do a family, generational type thing. So that's what we do there. So let's talk about the key points of the offense. The first one is pay yourself first. What does that mean? We want to make sure that every month we have an automated, draft coming out of your account. $50 a month at 9%, it's about $250,000 over 40 years. If you say to yourself right now, what's an extra $250,000 mean to me right now? That's $50 a month over 40 years. And so we pay ourselves first. How do we do that? We have automated plans either out of our checking account or maybe through a retirement account through our work if it's available. We need to understand compound interest. Compounding periods matter. If you get 4% on your money, it doubles in 18 years. If you get 12% on your money, it doubles in 6 years, and so on. It's called the rule of 72. Once you learn that, you look at making a purchase. I was talking to someone. They were talking about spending $17,000. I thought it was a bad idea. And I said, just keep in mind, over 30 years, that's $500,000 that $17,000 is costing you. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to save money and invest money and have fun too. But the rule of thumb is that you ought to have a goal to save 25% of your income at a minimum to get yourself in a good spot, 10%, assuming that you do some things that absolutely matter, which is understand compound interest, get a good rate of return, give yourself time. And what I mean by that is start now. I ask people, when do you think the best time to start? Today, tomorrow, or let's wait 10 years? No, let's do it now. All right. So we got compounding, rate of return. We got time and consistency. And then we will look at diversification as another part of the offense when it comes to investment. Diversification is, putting it across different asset classes. Like when someone's young and getting started, we may be all in growth funds, but we may have an international fund. We may have a large cap growth fund, a small cap growth fund, a mid cap growth fund, whatever it may be. And so what we're doing is we're diversifying across different asset classes. Then we rebalance it. We look at tax planning. That's part of how we do things. What makes sense? Maybe we should put this money aside. We're never going to use it. We don't think. Let's put it into like an annuity, a variable annuity, or what's called a RILA. Both of those have market upside, some downside risk, or some protected downside risk, or all of the risk, depending on what you want to do. I have variable annuities that, I saw one of them, I put in $50,000, and it grew to like $130,000 over a 6 or 7 year period, and it compounded out like that, tax deferred. And so things like that, I look at. Why do I want to pay taxes on money I'm not using? If you want to make a charitable contribution, you can make it from your retirement account, and that way you're not paying taxes on. If you have a traditional IRA, you can move money from your traditional IRA and donate it to the church. Church is charitable contribution, and you don't have to pay taxes on it. Now, if you take it out of your IRA, you pay your taxes, and then you make the donation. All right. This way you get your donation, tax deduction, and you don't pay taxes on it when you pull it out. So it's things like that if you're doing charitable giving. So when I'm looking at the overall picture, I'm looking at investment recommendations, retirement recommendations, college planning. I'm looking at tax strategies to be able to, do the most tax efficient way of doing things. I look at wealth transfer and legacy planning. One of the things that I did, I worked with my mom and dad, and what a story. They retired 40 years ago, and we saw. I just started in the business doing advisory, and I set them up. And the cool part was my mother lived to 102. And I always tell people that the great news, she lived to 102. The even better news is she had no financial worries during that time. She didn't run out of money when she was 85 or anything like that. And so how did we do that? We put together good investment strategies. We put together living trust, revocable living trust, healthcare power of attorneys, financial power of attorneys, living will. All of the things were in place from the very beginning. We took that money, put it into an irrevocable trust, which is like a trust fund. Why did we do that when my father passed? We did that because that is income and asset protection. So there's so many things that go into making it make sense. And so what we do, we look at the strategies, and we go from the least aggressive and we have a piece of that, maybe in a money market or a government bond, something like that. We look at tax. There's possible we have some tax-free stuff, all the way to the most aggressive type investments. So that's how we go and we put things together. But the whole mindset is you become an owner, not a loaner. You don't just loan your money to the bank. The bank makes a spread. Why wouldn't you just own the bank? How do you own the bank? The bank's got a system. They borrow the money at 3% or 0%, depending on what they pay you, and then they load into someone at 21% on a credit card, and they make the spread. I think they make more money than the saver does. So why wouldn't you own the bank? How would you do that? Well, we go in and we buy stock in the bank, but we don't know which bank to buy, so we hire professional money managers to do that kind of stuff. And so if you're tuning in right now, I'm going to give you all the resources you can do. If you go to roymatlockjr.com, go to the calculators, and you just go to financial planning and resources. And then down at the bottom, you'll see the financial calculator. It will tell you how much insurance you need. It'll tell you how much you need to save for retirement, or you can schedule a call at 615-843-2999. Talk to you next week.